Hey, everybody, welcome back. I'm your host, Anita Anello, with the Wealthy SAP Consultant Podcast. My guest today is Diana Stobo. And as we were doing our pre-podcast call, we were starting to talk about really, it's so neat. I love how and again, whatever vernacular you use in your life is totally cool. In my world, I say I love how God brings people together. If you call that the universe, whatever that looks like. I love how just in a couple of minutes, Diana and I have been able to connect about some similar backgrounds, some similar challenges. And so we're just going to kind of like pull that apart and break that down a little bit for you guys today. I hope in this podcast episode, for those of you that are entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, this episode is really for you as we talk about just kind of ups and downs of business when things go great and how that's amazing. And then when things don't go as we plan, and how do we, as entrepreneurs, maybe even solopreneurs or consultants, how do we navigate that and then know that there's a larger community of people that are going through some of these similar things? So, how do we navigate that together? So, Diana, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here with us today.
I'm excited to be here. I love how you said that because it immediately just made me take a deep breath into how I use the universe because it's just so much bigger than us and how it guides us into and out of what we choose to focus on in our lives, right? And one of the things that I, as a consummate entrepreneur, a creator, a visionary, I have done so many things. I mean, I've had so many businesses, and so I've written 15 books. I've been on television as a spokesperson. I ended up building a hotel in Costa Rica, sight unseen, bought this property and just built it to number 6 in the world as a wellness destination. And at the exact same time, I was creating Truth Products, which is a prebiotic probiotic nutrition bar. And I couldn't juggle them both. And sometimes I just sat back and let the universe decide where my focus would be and what I was going to excel in. And the both have taken me on wild rides, to be honest. And and at the end of the road, is there an end of the road? Is there an answer at the end of it on where we're supposed to be and what's going to happen? I mean, I'm just on for the ride.
That's so interesting that you say that, Diana, because I just took a note here. And I find that as entrepreneurs and in this space, there's so much information around us. And we can, and all of it, let me rephrase, most of it, many of it, a lot of it can be really good and really helpful. But when we're on our own, or just as either a solopreneur or running our own organization, whatever that looks like, oftentimes we can find, and I know when I coach a lot of people and executives, they'll say like, Anita, I'm so overwhelmed. There's so many things to do. There's so much information to take in. How do I know what the next step is? So maybe let's start our conversation there. Like, what do you use as kind of like your guiding principle to say, what's the next step in my business that I know that I need to take? Because what I have found is that if I lay, and my personality style is I'm very task driven. So I'll lay out like, these are the 20 things I got to get done today. And
Yeah.
that is not, that's not the recipe for success. What it does is it overwhelms me and then it keeps me stuck. And then I wander and flounder through the day, and I'm like, oh, I didn't get the things done that I needed to do. So instead, really switching over to the other part of my personality that's okay, laser focused. I'm just going to take my next step. So, how do you discern what is the next step with all of these things going on around you?
Well, right out the gate, I have to tell you that when I'm down in the nitty gritty, when I'm boots on the ground, head down on the computer, absorbing new things, new information, talking to people, I don't get anything done. And it's not that I don't get the task at hand done. I do. But what I forget to do is rise up 10,000 feet and see the greater picture. And everybody has their specialty.
Mhm.
I'm a 10,000, I'm a 100,000 feet up kind of girl.
Yeah.
And so when I find myself getting overwhelmed and bogged down and in the nitty gritty, because believe me, I'm not a tech person. I'm so behind. I'm so behind on social AI. I mean, I almost feel like there's something wrong with me. And how does everybody else do it so easily? It's not my way. I'm a creative. I'm different. So I play to my strengths.
Yes.
I remember that what I do as a visionary is when I'm 100,000 feet up, I can see very clearly
Mhm.
what needs to be done. And then when I see it, I'm actually going to cry just talking about this because it's truly what sets me apart from, somebody who's a taskmaster. And they are, I have people that work for me who are incredible operators.
Yes.
And they are task after task after task. And when I say, hey, come up here with me so you can see my vision, they're like, I can't. So what I do when I'm there is I trust.
Mm.
And I know that sounds hokey and whatever, but
Oh,
I stay up there and I trust, and then everything aligns.
yeah.
Because if I lose sight on the prize, if I lose my vision
Mhm.
on what I want overall, then I can't get anything. There's nothing that's going to happen. It's just
Yeah.
going to stagnate. So you have to go up and see the bigger picture in my world. For
Yeah.
what I do, that's what I need to do.
Right.
So that's what saves me. I do get overwhelmed. Like I said, it's a Monday. I was just traveling and
Yeah.
I've got a million things that need to be checked off and I'm overwhelmed. I'm actually getting nauseous just thinking about how am I going to get through the day. But when I realized that it doesn't change the vision,
Yeah.
I can relax because I'm very clear on my vision.
That's so good. I love that. That it really resonates. So let me kind of break that down. Number one, I'm a visionary as well, so I love that. Like that speaks to me, and I know that speaks to people who are listening to the podcast. But I like how you also said like there's a place for each and every one of us, and recognizing where you're at is super, super helpful. I know I have had some of my coaches for years that I've been in business that'll say, Anita, this is what I see. This is the gold that I see in you, and how do we draw that out and have you really play to your strengths and will really work in that area of genius for you.
And
So,
one of the hardest things is when you do have people in these tasks and managing them is keeping them up to speed
mhm,
because they're literally in the trenches. And
yeah,
so you're like, I'm doing this. And then they're like, you're changing your mind. And I said, we're just pivoting.
yeah,
And life is about pivoting. Every 15 minutes, we've got a new energy coming in.
yeah.
And we've got to pivot and change. And it's just these little, moving things just slightly to the left, slightly to the right, but staying on the vision. And how are we going to get there? So that's probably a big challenge for me is keeping my managers
Mhm.
apprised on everything that's in my feeble mind.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Okay, so what if we shift gears a little bit? How do we encourage and help somebody take the next step that maybe has a smaller organization that what you're talking about, Diana? Like, how do we equip those folks that says, okay, I might be the visionary or the task person. Either one is fine. We're just using those as like some markers in our conversation, because there's lots of other roles in between
Yeah.
there. But what
Yeah.
if they don't have the team around them to be able to go forward? I know Benjamin Hardy and is it Dan Kennedy or Dan Sullivan? I'll have to look. Wrote a book called Who Not How, and they're talking about how in American culture, in particularly, we're kind of taught to ask the wrong question, and that I have a goal, I want to go after it, and immediately our brains go to how can I get that done, which actually bogs us down with more weight, more pressure, more tasks, and instead, the question we should be asking is who can I hire? Who can I trade time with? Who can actually do this better than I can? Because we're not designed to be good at everything in life. We're designed to actually work together and come together and have community and fellowship together with other people.
Well, it reminds me of the elephant. How do you eat one? One bite at a time, right? So you put one foot in front of the other. And I think that what we do is we want to run before we walk.
Mm.
And that's what overwhelms us and makes us fail. We get burnout, but we have to take, I mean, how I got here is a 12-year journey.
Yeah.
And it was the most expensive education of my life. And no, lots of failures in between. And people are
Yes.
like, oh, you're so successful and you do this and you do that. I'm like, oh God, I don't feel that way. I
Mm.
feel every day is just another micro step into what's next.
Mm.
So When I feel overwhelmed is when I want to get it all done and I don't know how to do it.
Mm.
So that is a truth.
Yeah.
But again, it's the same, it's the same protocol, it's the same theory. Step back, and then all of a sudden a phone call will happen, and somebody who is really good at that can
Yeah.
help you.
Hmm.
Or you, but you have to step back and you have to trust and stay with the vision because, and it doesn't mean you sit back and just, sit on the couch and watch a
Right.
movie and just, someday I'm going to do this. No, you have to do the steps. You
Yes.
have to, it's a day-to-day thing. You got to put the time in. But sometimes when you hit a roadblock, and this is another thing, is you've got to take another path.
Mm.
You've got to pivot real quick and find another pathway. There's always a back door. There's always a path on the side of the road that you can take that's going to get you around the bend to the other side. And so we just have to trust that that's going to happen for us if it's meant to be.
Mm.
That is, we were talking earlier about my company, Truth Products, and I'm going to use that as an example. That thing it's got 9 lives. It has
Mhm.
been through so many lives, and it's been tested. It's been tested by people. It's been tested by a corporation. It's been tested by a product. It's been every angle of this business has been tested, and
Mhm.
yet it's still here. And I'm on the precipice of making a decision if it's going to continue or not, because I'm tired. I'm
Yeah.
tired of pivoting and moving, especially when I have such a successful company on the other side that brings me so much joy and peace, you know. And I'm sitting back and I'm in this really weird space right now where I'm waiting. I'm literally waiting for the universe
Yeah.
to give me a sign. And I put a deadline out there. I put it out to the universe. Listen, by Valentine's Day, if I don't get a sign
Yeah.
of what I'm supposed to do, because I haven't gotten anything clear right now. It's up and down and up and down and up and down. I'm like, I'm going to call it quits.
Mm.
Because it otherwise you're pushing a rock uphill. And as an entrepreneur, you need to know when to let go. You
Mm.
need to know when, is your product bringing you joy? Is it bringing you satisfaction? Is it accomplishing the goals that you want it to accomplish?
Yeah.
Isn't that why we do it, right? We're trying to bring something beautiful to the world and enjoy the ride and, hopefully be able to survive and make a good living off of it. And also, otherwise we'd be working for other companies.
Right.
It's different. It's just different. A
Yeah.
different road.
So, Diana, a couple things that you said in there that I really want to dig into a little bit deeper, and we can do whichever order that you want. Finding peace. I made some notes here. So, finding peace in the middle of kind of like uncertainty and storms and just the ups and downs of business. And then also just failures. Let's talk about that a little bit because I know sometimes in our mind, we can think, oh, if I fail and then go down this rabbit hole. But really, I like my coaches remind me, and I think Steve Harvey did the comedian, he did there's a video on Netflix that you can, sorry, on YouTube that you can check out. And he talks about failure. And one of I'll just break down it. You could watch it in its entirety. It's only a couple minutes, totally worth the watch. But in this video, what Steve Harvey is talking about around failure is essentially I'll paraphrase, he makes a statement that says, one of the reasons that I am so successful is because I've failed more than you have. So he's taken every
Feel
single
that.
opportunity, gotten up, tripped, fallen, figured something out about that, learned something. I'm going to put it in language that makes sense to me. Learned something about the failure, something that didn't work out, a door that was closed, a path that we tried to take that fell apart, or whatever, an offer we tried to create, a business we thought would blow up and didn't work out the way that we thought, or whatever, fill in your blank, or whatever that looks like, and then learn how to, and it's one of those resilience skills, those muscles that entrepreneurs, man, in order to what I have learned in my journey is in order to be able to stay the course over the long haul, we need to be able to know that number one, that's going to happen, but then also to be able to flex that muscle. And then how do we find joy in that? How do we find peace in that? Knowing that, okay, yeah, last year I had these plans. It didn't work out the way that I wanted, or it worked out better than I thought, but it wasn't the way that I thought it was going to happen, right? there's a lot of elements in there. So what do you want to start with? Finding joy and peace in the journey, or starting with
Well,
the
first of
failure part?
all,
Because the failure part, it's really important. It's a practical um, method that we use as humans to be able to learn and grow. Right? As our children were learning how to walk, we did not expect them to go from moving around on their tummy to crawling to pulling themselves up and then walking immediately. We expected that they were going to get up, fall, figure some stuff out, and then try again. And that's a big part of the entrepreneurial journey.
well, the first part of that kind of gave me a lump in my throat.
Mm.
So I don't know. There must be an emotional day for me. What's in the stars? I don't know. But because I have failed
Yeah.
tremendously
Mhm.
many, many, many times. And I have to say that probably the only reason I'm here today is because of my courage and my resilience.
Yeah.
And that has taught me about myself.
Mhm.
It has made me a stronger human. And if all business fails,
Yeah.
I have succeeded
Yeah.
as developing human in this on this earth. If
Oh,
I die tomorrow, I will know that I left a good legacy
yeah.
for myself, for my children, for my grandchildren, for them to go, my mom, she kicked ass. Sorry. She really, really worked hard and she got knocked down so many times and she pulled herself back up and everybody told her she couldn't do it and she did. And that sorry, that just really makes me feel like, and I've never said this, so this is probably why I'm feeling emotional about it because I've never looked at myself that way.
Yeah.
I've always just like, I'm just barreling through doing what I need to do. And I never sit back and pat myself on the back and go, you know what? Good on you, girl. Like really. And I think that's kind of what 2024 brought to me. There was something surrendered in me and I stopped having that imposter syndrome or that failure, mentality. And I just started going, listening to other people see me
Yeah.
was allowing me to go, wow, girl, good
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
Like, how did you get here?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just at my hotel yesterday and this woman from Delaware, she was a guest with a group and she came in and she said, "Are you the owner?" And I said, "Yes." She says, "I just heartfelt gratitude for this magical place," and just went on and on and on and on into the details. And it wasn't the first person. Every time I go down there, I get cornered by these grateful. Who does that?
Yeah.
Who goes to a hotel, finds the owner, stops them, and says, "Wow,
Yeah.
wow, you created magic."
Mhm.
And I used to just kind of go, yeah, 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 yeah. Because I'm thinking, oh, I need to fix this. I need to do this. I need to do this. And now I sit and I listen and I absorb and I go, thank you.
Yeah.
Wow, this is really spectacular. And I need to recognize that this has been my blood, sweat, tears, all my financial,
Yeah.
everything, everything, my life has been dedicated to this. And so for them to recognize it is a really big, win. They don't need to know that the time, energy, and money that was lost,
Mhm.
the poor decisions that were made along the way. They don't need to know that, this angle didn't work out the way I'd hoped
Mhm.
for,
Yeah.
or that, but all they see the vision
Yeah.
because I stayed true the whole time.
I love that.
There were times when I thought I was going to go bankrupt. There were times when I thought I was going to close the doors. I was going to try to sell. I even had offers for a great amount of money, which turned out to be people I think was more of a, people I wouldn't want to buy my property. And every time that I hit a wall like that, it's like I burst through it and something beautiful happened. So I consider every failure, every mistake, every bad decision, every wall that I've hit
Yeah.
to be the next step to evolution.
Mm.
And in fact, my manager, he's very, he thanks God every day, and he's very, but he's also micro. He
Yeah.
doesn't. He thinks it as a, oh, God will save, that whole God will save me thing. And I'm up here going, okay, no one's going to save you but yourself. But you got to let God in.
Mhm.
We're using God, universe, whatever you want to use. And whenever we lose a key employee, and he's like, we'll never find anybody. And I said, you got to trust, man.
Yeah.
And the next person we get is better.
Yeah.
every time.
Yeah.
So it's an evolution.
Mm.
Think about it when you're in a relationship. You're in a relationship with someone, you get into this massive fight. Now you either break up or you grow.
Yeah.
And it's the same with business. It's a relationship that you're having with an entity.
Yeah. Yeah. First of all, Diana, thank you for your vulnerability. I so appreciate just really, just kind of the really real of business. A lot of times, especially in the online space, we hear a lot of I was an overnight success, but what we don't always understand is that was like 20 years in the making, or however, it was more time than you could possibly imagine. Now, maybe it did happen faster for others, and that's great. But I really genuinely appreciate your vulnerability and just being honest and open with the audience about sometimes it's hard and sometimes you do want to give up and sometimes you're walking around in tears and sometimes you're like, but wait a minute. Okay, I got that taken care of and now let's go. We're
Exactly.
back at it. Right? There's seasons for all of those
I
things.
heard something the other day that really it just resonated, and I've probably repeated it 20 times. It takes 15 years to become an overnight success. And
On
even
average. Yeah.
those who seem to have become an overnight success, how much time in the making before it was established? How long was it in the mind? How long was it thought about? So we
Yeah.
don't know.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. That's awesome. One thing that I have noticed as I get older, as a younger woman, a lot of my life and my perception and perspective was wrapped around as a woman, as a mom, as a wife, as a executive and successful in my own right, and then all these different hats I wore, I noticed that I would often allow my joy and my peace to be robbed by comparison. So, but what I've noticed as I've gotten older, man, it's like taking off a sweater that doesn't fit anymore. I feel like as women, it's such a gift that we have. The older that we get, the more we we worry less about what everybody else thinks, and we're able, if we're fortunate to acknowledge it, we're able to really settle in so much more into who we are, what purpose we have here, what's our journey look like, what are those next steps. Now, not everybody does that, and I get that. And I just honor where everybody's at. But I know, like for me personally, that's been part of my journey and recognizing I know I'm on the path that I'm called to be able to serve the audience that can only hear my voice. Like I know that. Um, and yet, what would be your advice if there's a younger woman that's listening to us today who might be stuck in that comparison kind of mindset that says, I wish I had what she had, or I'm not good enough, or something like that?
Well, I think that's just nature in general, just looking at and not judge but admire.
Mm.
And because if you look at someone that you admire, there is this part of comparison and separation, and there, that doesn't belong in love.
Mhm.
And without love, we have nothing. So when you compare yourself to somebody, it's there is no hierarchy. You
Yeah,
know, like I had this wonderful teacher. She says, I am not your guru. You are your own guru.
yeah.
So take what you can from your guru, your icon, your whoever it is that you respect and admire, and don't judge them because judging them is just pointing the finger at yourself.
Yeah.
And so that just makes you smaller and brings you down. And you talked about being a woman, and I want to address this because this is really interesting. Like I said, I turned 60 in March, and so I'm definitely an older woman and I've been through a lot. I've never felt, and I have an Iranian father, and I had a very patriarchal husband. So I know what it feels like to feel smaller or like you can't. I
Mhm.
was told, so many times I can't. It never really hit me though.
Mm.
It was never like a backpack that I wore. I'm a woman, I'm going to be repressed and no one's going to. I'm an alpha.
Yeah.
And I just exerted my alpha because what I do, I don't know any men who could do it
Yeah.
because I'm such a creative. And
Yeah.
no man can be a goddess.
Thank
No
goodness.
man can be a queen,
Yeah.
no matter how much they try.
Right.
They So I know where my place is, and all that matters is not the ones that tried to push me down, but the ones who looked up at me.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that work for me. And I got to tell you, I have got the most loyal
Mm.
men working for me who
Yeah.
literally love and honor me, like love and honor me. And I love them too. I'm a very loyal person. They're very loyal. So if we attach ourselves to the stigma
Mm.
of I'm not good enough, or I'm a woman, or I'm not going to be able to, or this, that it's exactly the road you're going to take.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
if you place yourself on a pedestal and be humble to all that are there as a queen would,
Yeah.
look at them, all your constituents, and say, listen, I'm going to lead you, and this is the way it's going to, you don't have to worry about what other people say, because the people who want to follow will,
Yeah.
and they will hold you and protect you and support you
Yeah.
because they believe in you.
Mm. I love that.
So it really is about how you see yourself and
Mhm.
how you hold that energy
Oh,
in
yeah.
and it's been coming up lately because I've been part of these groups, and I see the women struggling with how the men react to them, and I'm like, it's so funny. It just doesn't hit me that way.
Mhm.
I do see it,
Yeah.
but I don't wear it.
Mm. That's
Does that
good.
make sense?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. It's funny. Sometimes I can describe kind of like myself years before I met my husband, and he'll say, "Babe, I hear what you're saying." We haven't had this conversation in many, many years, but he would always say, "I hear what you're saying, but I don't even recognize that version of you." Because that's not the person that I know you to be
Yeah,
now, right?
yeah.
And so, right, like a whole bunch of other stuff happened at those early seasons of my life, and then being able to overcome those and get healing from those and walk now in freedom and being able and as I said, I would describe these scenarios to either friends or my husband now, and he'd be like, like I honor that. I'm so sorry, some difficult situations and stuff. And he's like, but that's not who you are. And I'm like, no, it's not who I am at all anymore. So, yeah, wherever you are on that journey, I just want to encourage you as you're listening to be able to take the framework and the ideas that Diana and I are talking about and be able to, if you feel like you're less than, know that you are equipped to be able to rise up. If you feel like you're on the top, congratulations, and help another person just take that next step forward. Like both are amazing places to be. So, so good how we can always lock arms with other people and learn from others and then be able to take one next step in our journey together. Yeah, awesome. So, Diana, as we get ready to wrap up, do you have any final thoughts as we're wrapping up the podcast episode about kind of our conversation today or other ways that people can connect with you?
Well, first of all, I love this conversation. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much. I mean, it's so meaningful and true,
Mhm.
and it's probably one of my strengths right now. In my old health coaching is now about entrepreneur coaching. You can always find me Diana Stobo, dianastobo.com, on Instagram, and of course that follows everything else I do. So I have my own brand, and makes it easy
Yeah.
to find me. And I do love interacting and hearing people's stories, and so if you ever want to share or ask questions, I'm completely open to that.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. So as we wrap up today, I just want to honor you, Diana, what you do and the offerings that you bring to the marketplace and the way you serve your audience is really, it's amazing. So I just want to thank you for who you are, the way that you showed up today and be honest and vulnerable and encourage other people, but also what you're doing in in your pocket of the world and the way that you're helping your customers and your clients be able to go after the things that God's put on their heart. So thank you so much for who you are and the way that God's made you and just being here with us today.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Very nice to meet you.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks for being here with us today and stay tuned for the next episode of the Wealthy SAP podcast.